So, on last night's debate, it is plainly obvious that my forecast was way off the mark. In fact, by all accounts, you could say that what happened was just about the opposite of what I had anticipated. Mea culpa, no doubt about it, but I need to stress the mistake was mine and mine alone. Astrology itself is not to blame. Rather, I simply didn't interpret properly. Although I can say with confidence that as the years pass, my errors, especially big ones like this, appear with decreasing frequency, still a bad call is a bad call. But if upon reassessing the astrological reasons I can explain my mistake to myself, then even though it won't much help me feel better either as an astrologer or in this case as a concerned American citizen, nevertheless it does help me to become a better astrologer and to avoid these kinds of mistakes in the future. My key error was in downplaying a big, slow-moving transit by over-focusing on faster, smaller ones. And the most dangerous slow transit was and is the position of transiting Saturn, now 2 days from making a station, very near to Biden's midheaven axis from the bottom side, literally at the bottom of the chart, which is a very sensitive point for any individual and therefore becomes something that astrologically fits with potential perfection, with being hit in the head with a stick in regard to old age, the topic that Saturn is always connected to. A transit like this is always going to be more dangerous to an 81-year-old than to a progressively younger person, and all the more so when the transiting planet is near a station, and likewise all the more so when Biden has not been looking particularly spry of late. But all of that does not take away the deep disappointment in what amounts to professional malpractice that Biden and the Democratic Party would do such a terrible job of yesterday's debate. Where to from here? Well, first, I will no longer underestimate the dangers to his health that are definitely there in his chart, which means that if he continues as the Democratic candidate seeking to remain in the White House, instead of resigning and letting a younger person take over, which seems like the safer thing to do, then, to get to November, he has to get around the threat of transiting Uranus opposing his Venus and his Sun in conjunction in the 12th house, while transiting Pluto is squaring his natal moon. These are most definitely two big transits that could point to a health breakdown, which could take him out of the running or worse. And these two transits are most intensely active during August and September, especially between mid-August and mid-September, which is the period when the Democratic Convention happens. By October, he's not completely clear, but it's definitely a little better, and the same with November. The Saturn position is tough now, but ironically starts to improve as we move into July, August, and all the way to November, when it will actually be an asset to him. And so also, ironically, where today he's being heavily castigated for being a washed-up old fart, provided he can bypass the other two transits threatening his health, then we should see the talk of being too old start to disappear and shift toward the power of his wisdom and experience, more or less like what happened earlier this year, following the State of the Union, when Saturn was at least temporarily leaving a troubled zone in his chart. Meanwhile, we have the question of the mendacious sleazebag he is running against, and on that, I continue to say he is traveling through rough planetary territory now and right through July, and so I wouldn't be at all surprised to soon see that this supposed big debate win was really nothing but a Pyrrhic victory in the final scheme of things. And what I really want to stress is that even if I no longer have full confidence that Biden will make it to the finish line as a candidate, I still continue to assert that whether Joe makes it or not, Trump is going to lose. And whereas even if Joe is definitely getting long in the tooth and might have been wiser to give way to younger talent in this political campaign, he is a good man and a good president, whereas his opponent is an immoral, imbecilic, lying scoundrel. So whether or not Biden is there at the end in November to make sure the orange abomination doesn't win, then it'll be somebody else. But rest assured that in the final tally, the orange menace is not going to win. And if If after all this, Joe finds a way to sidestep his health liabilities long enough to get to the November vote as the candidate, then there is no doubt in my mind that at election time his chart is better than Trump's, which means the Democratic victory would be extra sweet, not just for Joe, but I think probably for the rest of us as well.